Chapter 7 At home in language study. The Arabic language was different, so unlike the Western languages. Some sounds of the alphabet would not even be discerned until after 6 months of language study. Also, the spoken colloquial was different from the written classical language, which complicated the learning process. The first night after arriving in Lebanon, a Christian dentist told us not to waste our time trying to learn the Arabic language. He said it would be fruitless and in vain. He suggested I secure an interpreter, begin services, and get to work for God. He said the other missionaries had not succeeded in learning Arabic. I was shocked and felt sick. View of mountains from balcony 89. Cast your bread. Then I looked the dentist in the eyes and said, Dr. Nagolian, you may be right that we may not be able to learn Arabic. I don't know. But I want you to know that either I will learn it, or I will die trying. God put something in my heart that I want to tell these people. I want to tell them myself. I will not give the job to an interpreter. I don't want someone else thinking for me. I want to share with people personally and with heartfelt emotion what God has done for me and what He can do for them. Dr. Nagolian became a faithful friend who filled our teeth, pulled some of them, but he was never able to touch our tongues. We were determined to learn the language before all else. I sat on the balcony of our new apartment, looking at the distant Lebanese mountains and wrote, the wind is chasing the dark grey clouds tinged with silver linings over the majestic, snow-capped mountains as we sit and write this. I cannot help but wonder what the Lord has in store for us. Perhaps we shall ride those clouds in a glorious rapture this very year. I hope so. Well, the first thing God had for us on the missionary agenda was to learn the language. We were totally convinced of the importance of learning Arabic. We had the good news to communicate, and that required the language to do so. Years ago, a Western missionary to Lebanon published an article in a little paper describing different types of missionaries. The first type was a missionary who came and never did anything. The second type of missionary was a good person, but he spent a lot of time, that was really wasted time, trying to learn the language. The third and ideal kind of missionary came to the field with a heart heavy and a burden for souls. He wanted to win these souls before Jesus came, so he employed an interpreter and got right into the work of getting the gospel to perishing souls. A missionary that had found the language difficult told me that as a last resort, he was buying an LP record with Arabic conversations recorded on it to be played while sleeping, with the hoped result that the information would be embedded into his brain for speaking Arabic. I suggested that he save his money to pay the interpreter. That ideal third type of missionary did not remain on the field for long, and the LP record is now obsolete but waiting for the next third type of missionary to use it. We also realized that we could not really understand the people and their thinking without learning their language. Knowing their language holds the key to understanding their culture and way of thinking. 90 At home in language study. The Lebanese culture does not enshrine the custom of Western privacy. It magnifies the custom of serving others, showing great hospitality to others at one's own expense. So the lines between people's private matters tend to be blurred. The Westerner is slanted towards his rights, his boundaries, his life, his property. Not so with the Middle Easterner. Service, sacrifice, unselfish sharing are the norm for them. I once commented that the Arabic language did not have a proper word for privacy simply because there was no privacy. Kathleen was humorously shocked by some of the very personal questions posed to her, but the ladies meant no harm. they were just curious, so they asked. When being shown our home, some curious souls would open the closet door and look at all her dresses. Strategy for language study. Kathleen with Mrs. Jaha, our Arabic teacher, 1961. Visit with Mrs. Jaha, 1993. We soon launched into disciplined language study. There was no school to teach foreigners the Arabic language in Tripoli, so we devised our strategy of how to proceed. The Lord led us to an excellent teacher who was strong in Arabic grammar and knowledgeable in English. We first selected a book in English with phonetic letters for the Arabic alphabet that taught some basics of the colloquial or spoken Arabic. It taught us how to meet people, what to say, how to talk in the market to buy necessities, and how to navigate many other practical daily scenarios. 2 hours in class daily, many hours of study 5 days a week for about 6 weeks got us talking about everyday activities. We talked and practiced our knowledge with the people on a daily basis. 91. Cast your bread. Both of us cleaned house and tidied up other needed tasks on Saturday. Sunday was spent working in an English-speaking or translated language church in RAS Beirut during the first year of study. Beirut was around 90 minutes to 2-hour drive each way depending on the traffic. John and Juanita Haynes, members of the RAS Beirut church, opened their home to us on the weekends, which was a great help and blessing. These various excerpts from more letters reveal an inside view of our language study. The word yella means hurry, but it actually means nothing here because no one gets in a hurry. We are trying to maintain a daily schedule for at least 6 hours study besides 2 hours class time with the teacher. It is very important that we practice our small knowledge of Arabic as much as possible. Believe me, I think we've nearly invented some new words. But most of the people have been very kind and sympathetic in helping us. I don't think we've studied any harder since we've been here, but the Lord gave a wonderful month of progress in Arabic. It seems that language study runs in a mixed pattern. Sometimes you are progressing, and the other half of the time it seems that you are getting nowhere. Tripoli postcard to Richard's grandparents, 8/12/1959. In April 1960, we were really tired when we got back from Beirut Sunday night. It seems like every week gets more tiresome. Either that, or I'm getting old. For some reason, Sunday really takes it out of me. Monday is kind of a filler for both of us as we seem so worn out, and there is little time to study for our lesson that day. So we have now set Monday aside for a complete review of all that we studied the week before. But even at that, there is a real need for study 92 at home in language study, as it is difficult to know all the lessons if you haven't looked over them again. It would help us if the teacher could come in the afternoon on Monday. Again, we're both a bit tired this afternoon. We have just finished typing about 60 monthly prayer letters. By the way, we saw an old villager riding a donkey down the street by our house today, and he was holding up an umbrella over his head. The poor donkey's head had to suffer the heat. We now have 3 hours of Arabic lessons each day with 2 teachers. The second teacher gives us pure conversation for 1 hour. Again, we have decided to study Arabic from the Bible. We'll probably stay with lessons from the Bible most of the summer before beginning another book of classical Arabic, the written Arabic. Instead of just taking the Gospel of John verse by verse, which would take 3 months if we really worked like mad, we are thinking of just picking certain stories and important chapters, or more used passages. That way, we could get over a number of important passages in the Bible this summer. However, 15 or 20 verses will probably be about the maximum each day, as there are many new words that we have to learn. Also, we will learn the corresponding words in the dirige or spoken language and try to be able each day to recite the story or passage in colloquial, the spoken Arabic. Additionally, we had a good laugh this week. A missionary preached at church with an interpreter into Arabic. He got really worked up and said some things that really weren't wanted or appreciated by the interpreter or some of the congregation. So the interpreter just skillfully omitted the objectionable section completely and filled the gap with suitable replacements. Only the people who knew both Arabic and English would have picked up the change, and, of course, the missionary preached right on with power, unaware that anything had happened and feeling that he had killed the golden goose. I told Kathleen on the way home that I don't want someone editing my words or doing my thinking for me. And I pray that God will give me enough sense to be discreet and understanding so that I will not be in need for someone to edit my sermon or do my thinking. Another idea: we now want to record the teacher speaking every lesson from the Bible in the colloquial or spoken language so we can listen and practice with it. We have a second lady coming in for an hour each day. This lady has taught some Americans before, so she does well in conversation with us. We just want to take all the verbs that we have learned and make conversation with them. All nouns and adjectives come from the root verb. 93 Cast your bread. Great news! I gave a brief talk on soul winning in the church, which was my first public Arabic adventure. We are enjoying Arabic study from the Gospel of John now. We are really benefiting from the daily extra hours lesson strictly for conversation and pronunciation. Our need for daily patience and wisdom is great, so please continue to pray for us. These days of Arabic study are very important because we are helpless here without the language, both in understanding the people and in giving the gospel. Kathleen wrote, "We will be going to camp soon. There will be no electricity and we will have to carry water, but it will be nice and cool. It will last a week." Richard is presently working hard on some sermons in Arabic to preach at the camp. It will be his first sermon in Arabic. It takes hours and hours to prepare just one sermon since it has to be written out completely, and then he must go through it all with our teacher for grammatical construction and corrections. Arabic grammar is very detailed and complicated, though we do find it interesting. Then he practices it many times. Further, now I have a sermon on the new birth, one on Lot and his decision, one on Daniel and his decision, and half of another on soul winning. There is yet a lot of preparation still to be made on learning them and on the delivery, but I am encouraged about it. A capable young Arabic pastor, Victor Sadaka, who interprets, asked me if I were certain I wanted to do this. I told him I had never been more certain. Certain, but not all that confident. It's a bit like swimming in cold water. Just jump in and get the pain over with. Victory. I preached 4 times in Arabic at the camp. It was the first time, and I have never felt more dependent upon the Lord to do something than I did those 4 days as I asked Him to speak through me. So graciously the Lord blessed and used His word in the hearts of the people. Though we are weak, trembling and so helpless, yet He is ever with us. The truth. My morale usually isn't too high when we start Arabic class at 10 o'clock Monday morning, as Sunday is very tiring with the crazy traffic and the long trip to Beirut, plus whatever teaching and preaching we are called on to do for the day. Also, one develops a tired mind in language study, and it is not easy to concentrate fully. But God is able, and His blessings have been more than sufficient in the past. Coupled with the effective prayers of God's people, His promise will lead us on to that coveted possession of this language in order that we might convey the powerful gospel of Christ. 94 At home in language study, Kathleen was a determined student of the Arabic language. In the beginning, she was invited into many homes of neighbor ladies. They enjoyed the blonde toy with her quaint Arabic words. Kathleen kept a little notebook into which she wrote certain words she did not understand. Then she would present these to the Arabic teacher to get the proper meanings. It was a real bonanza for both Kathleen and me. At the beginning she got a head start in conversing in the language. Kathleen's knowledge of Arabic has been a real blessing to me and the ministry through the many years. In later years, when I lost much hearing, Kathleen's ability to understand and speak Arabic was a vital resource in my ministry. After our daughters were born, time for Arabic study dried up for Kathleen. But she had prepared to take her place alongside her husband for a life of Arabic ministry. In summary, Halani Jaha was an excellent teacher for us. That dear lady had to listen to every sermon before I would preach it to others, no small feat. That was true for a number of years. Many Lebanese have told us, and still do, that we speak Arabic with an accent like the people of the Qura. I reply, thank you. We are honored to be accused of doing that. In fact, we are honored to be accused of speaking Arabic. Any credit goes to our friend and teacher, Halani Jaha. Mrs. Jaha was my teacher for almost 10 years, a time of study I have never regretted. Many years later in Australia, God put another person in our lives who was very strong in Arabic, and he was a blessing and encouragement. I will speak of George later in this book. He was an authority in Arabic literature and spoke a beautiful language. If he had been critical of my Arabic sermons, I think I would have melted away. To the contrary, he always spoke kindly in appreciation and complimented my Arabic. I am very aware of my weak Arabic, but it was so encouraging to have him as a church member and encourager of my adopted language. Throughout my sermon preparation, using the Arabic dictionary, searching for just the right word, right synonym was my standard procedure. I was conscientious in my effort to communicate clearly in my adopted language. Once I dreamed that I was preaching in a Beirut church, and I realized that I was speaking beautiful Arabic without any accent. I was so thrilled as I listened to myself. Suddenly I woke up and exclaimed to myself, "Oh no! It was only a dream." 95.